Item D, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 79 Collective Bargaining Agreement, and understand these need to go in a particular order here. President Kimberly Aguiar. And I'm so sorry we didn't have time to get to you in open forum, but thank you for staying. And this may have been the more appropriate place to have spoken anyway. But thank you, and welcome, Madam President.
Thank you. Good evening, and I guess I'll have to cram both of my speeches into one, so here we go. All right, so we're going to make history tonight, which you all know, and we're going to ratify our first contract between the City of Pensacola and its employees. And what I was going to say during open forum is this. There's something that we wanted to say regarding the wage article. It is to let you know that we followed the rules, we obeyed the law, and we respected the process. Yet, and again, we were not treated the same. What I mean by that is during our negotiations, we were promised that our bonus, like every other city employee, would be separate from our regular paycheck. But that didn't happen. Excuses were given, like being short-staffed. We understand that. But the real kicker was when I was told by finance was, quote, if you had voted when you were supposed to, we could have gotten our bonus this past Friday, end quote. I'm sorry that we didn't break the law. I'm sorry that it was an inconvenience. But do you know what most of all I'm sorry about? Is that the promise was broken to the 156 blue-collar workers. Nevertheless, we are true to ourselves because we follow the rules. We obey the law, we respect the process, and we will stand for right by holding up our end of the bargain, even when we're treated unfairly. Here we go. So, you know, I wrote this the night before we did our ratification, and I sent it out, and I just wanted to read it to y'all to have it on record. To whom it may concern, the City of Pensacola employees, AFSCME Local 3253, worked alongside Mayor Ashton Hayward III and his representatives. Both should be credited for their efforts and due diligence in coming together to reach an agreement, bargaining in good faith. Given the mayor's decision to move towards repealing the Civil Service Act, now more than ever, city employees will benefit from the partnerships between labor and management and what it can offer. It is our first contract with the City of Pensacola. I am very proud of the people who made it happen, from our chief negotiator, Alma Gonzalez, and the negotiation team. Friends and family that supported us and sacrificed throughout the long journey. President Jeanette Wynn of AFSCME Council 79 believing in us from the start. And the many countless volunteers and fellow AFSCME AFL-CIO brothers and sisters here in Pensacola, Escambia, Florida, the United States, and international, all of whom were there from the beginning and through almost 2 years in order to bring us to this turning point in our city's history, and now moving us into the future. It is a win-win all the way around, because we at AFSCME Local 3253, through our negotiation process, effectively helped all city employees receive the bonuses that were truly deserved, which in turn lifted morale, and all workers here in the City of Pensacola and in this country, classified, unclassified, public, private, working, and retired, are deserving of an environment and culture that promotes dignity and respect. That is what we strive for, and today is one step in the right direction. I am humbled and grateful to have been a small part in this movement. I thank you. Solidarity, peace, Kimberly Aguiar, President of Local AFSCME 3253.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Deweese.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Aguiar mentioned that the bonus was paid with their regular pay. Can we get an explanation of If there was a possibility to do that with in a different manner, from what I understand, there's tax implications from that are higher, and with them not having a raise in the last 5 years, and this to be a benefit to them, that I'd like to see the benefit maximized. Is there someone that could
Mr.
address
Reynolds.
that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just conferred with Mr. Barker on this issue. Our intent was to try to get it to the employees as soon as possible. There are some minimal tax implications, but those will be addressed when their returns are filed at the end of the year. Again, our goal was to ensure that they had the same benefit at the same time as other employees as much as we possibly could, and that's what our focus was on.
Okay. Does that suffice? Thank you.
At this point, yes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Myers.
Well, I just want to thank the union and the mayor's office for reaching what appears to be a good contract that the union is satisfied with. I just want to thank you for your hard work. I would often see you down here at night and late in the afternoon going into those bargaining sessions. AFSCME is a great union. It's the union that Dr. Martin Luther King went to Memphis to help during the sanitation strike, and he gave his life to help that union. And so AFSCME is a union that I hold very dear in my heart, quite frankly, because of my past involvement in the civil rights movement. I'm just glad that we were able to reach a good resolution to these negotiations. And I hope that we can continue this cooperation in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Mr. Danny Wallace.
Mele Kaliki Maka and Haolimi Maka Hiki Ho, which means Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
That's what Lulu and Stitch.
Thank you, Mr. President, City Council, City Administrators. I'm going to continue on with what Kim was talking about. First, I'm going to define good faith bargaining so everybody knows. Good faith bargaining generally refers to the duty of the parties to meet and negotiate at reasonable times with willingness to reach agreement on matters within the scope of representation. However, neither party is required to make a concession or agree to any proposal. Good faith bargaining requires employers and unions involved in collective bargaining to use their best endeavors to agree to an effective bargaining process, meet and consider and respond to proposals made by each other, respect the role of each other's representative by not seeking to bargain directly with those for whom the representative acts, not do anything to undermine the bargaining process or the authority of the other's representative. I believe that the city demonstrated good faith bargaining. We were happy with it. I think we acted professionally. I think the city acted professionally. It was with dismay that we learned the $350 appreciation bonus that all full-time city employees are receiving is being handled differently for AFSCME union members. It is due to our union bargaining with the city that all full-time employees get bonuses. And we as a bargaining unit are very proud of that. Last week, separate checks were cut for all non-union full-time employees. However, union members, instead of receiving a separate payout, which was verbally promised on November 30th by the city bargaining team, will receive their bonus added to their regular 80-hour paycheck. The tax man will now get a bigger cut of our bonus. As a union member, I appreciate the city administration working to get our bonuses to us before Christmas. 156 union members and their families have waited many years for union representation, and a collective bargaining agreement and this bonus is a result of that process. We feel our bonus checks should have been cut separately so that we too could have taken advantage of a few more dollars before Christmas, like all other full-time employees. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joe Sullenberger.
I'd like to thank the City Council for letting me speak tonight. My name's George Solschenberger. I'm the Vice President of the local AFSCME 3253. The city's bargaining team told us in good faith we would receive a separate bonus check of $750. And it would not be included in our regular paycheck. And of course, all other city workers got their separate bonus check last Friday, separate from their regular paycheck. The majority of my local union brothers and sisters, when they found that out, they came to me and asked me if we would also get the same. I told them yes. As it was told to us at our negotiation meetings, which was also recorded. Well, unfortunately, this morning, we found out that was a lie, and I understand the council is not responsible for that, but someone is, and we feel they should be held accountable. So to the council, I'd like to wish y'all a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, sir. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Wu.
Dr. Pratt.
Pratt, sir.
I'll deal with it tonight. I was just hoping we could get a little clarification because I guess this is raising the question, are bonuses generally taxable? And when the other employees got their checks last week, was it, were withholdings taken out of it? And there probably is a difference between federal taxes and then Social Security withholdings, and were those taken out as well? I'm just trying to get an understanding of when they cut separate checks, do they still withhold, or was it not withheld for the others? Thanks.
Mr. Reynolds, do you need Mr. Barker to come down and address that?
Yeah, Mr. Barker, if you could come down, but the short answer to your question, Councilwoman Pratt, is that yes, it is taxable income. You know, administration in the mayor's office was trying very hard to ensure that everybody had their bonuses before Christmas, and I'm deeply dismayed with the characterization that our actions were in any way dishonest or deceitful. We were trying to ensure that everyone was being treated equally and fairly, and the only reason that AFSCME did not receive their bonus with everybody else is because we didn't have a written agreement. And it is incredibly unfortunate that that characterization has been made, because I can assure you that it's not correct. Mr. Barker?
Yes, sir, Mr. Reynolds, Council President, Dr. Pratt. That is correct that taxes are taken out, but of course you can understand if you're taking taxes out of $750 as a separate check, immediately less tax comes out than if you were adding it to their biweekly check and adding the $750 into that. There would be additional tax taken out. So it would have been a benefit to the employee to pay them on a separate check. It is just simply that we did not have enough time in the payroll cycle to do it. We were able to do all other employees because last Friday they were paid. So there's just not enough time. We had a biweekly payroll this year. The contract says that it will be paid immediately upon ratification of the agreement. And so the next payday after the ratification of the agreement, which was Monday, I think you're aware of, was Friday, and that's why we put it on the check. But we can't run two payrolls in the same week, and so that was the issue. We also have the pensioners we pay on the off payroll weeks usually. sometimes those cross. So it was just a matter of timing and the understanding of the contract. But had the vote occurred earlier, we would have been able to do it on a separate check. If they wanted it this year, if they wanted it next year, I think we would have had an extra payday that we could have done that on. We'd have had an extra week in there to do it on.
So this, they're going to have the same amount of Social Security taken out because that's a 7.5%, and then it was the $750 then is a question of the estimate of their income, and since it was a separate check for the others, their income estimate was taken as, wow, they're not making much money, so they didn't take as much a percent.
That's correct.
But once it comes to paying their taxes in the spring, then they're going to have to, that'll get rolled into their total income, and they go through the whole worksheet.
That's correct. I think their concern is that they wanted more take-home, which they would have received in a separate check now.
Okay, so to get the money now. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we need a motion. Am
I understanding the situation correctly, and probably Mr. Barker would be the best person to ask, are the union members getting their checks after the holidays?
No, sir. They will get their pay tomorrow upon ratification.
Okay, so the bonus will be in that check?
That's correct. With their normal biweekly pay. And so they would have most likely had a greater take-home pay had the bonus been paid in a separate paycheck like we did the other employees. It just was not physically possible to do that.
Right, which leads me to my next question. Would it be possible to pay the regular pay and have the bonus delayed a day or two so it would come in a separate check?
No.
And I don't know, I'm just asking.
Right. No, sir, because the contract read immediately upon the ratification of the union. The union ratified it Monday, and when they ratified it Monday, we put it in the pay, so it's too late to take it out now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's important to understand, and it should not be lost, that this money will come back to them as part of their tax filing purposes. So I mean, it's not as if the tax man is getting it on the short end, but they'll get it back on the long end.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you. I guess I'm a little confused as we talk on this matter. Do I understand if the contract had not been ratified, they were not going to get the bonus?
That's correct. The agreement, Article 25, that I'm reading said upon ratification that the members of the bargaining unit would get a $750 less federal withholding immediately upon ratification of the agreement. They ratified Monday. The other unions either did a MOU or had ratified the contract in time to be paid last Friday on a special pay cycle.
But you had non-union employees who received the bonus.
You had everyone except the AFSCME union, the police officers who are union, the fire who are union, plus all the other employees who had either ratified the contract, signed a MOU, received their pay last Friday in a special check.
Do we have employees who are not part of any union?
You do, yes, sir, and they got paid.
They received the check?
They received it last Friday. AFSCME are the only ones that had not received it because they did not ratify their contract till Monday. And the payday after that is Friday, so as soon as they ratified the contract, we put it in the paycheck so that they'd have the money before Christmas.
In retrospect, it probably would have been best not to put a clause in there regarding bonuses in a contract.
And if I may, we have a responsibility to bargain with any employee organization any labor organization that represents employees. We cannot simply just give those that are represented a bonus without bargaining and going through the process with those that are represented, and that includes whether it's fire, whether it's AFSCME, or whether it's the police union. We have a responsibility to do that.
Yeah, I know your responsibility, but the issue that I'm raising is that if, for some reason, that the contract was not ratified, you probably will not receive a bonus. Is that what you're telling me?
That is correct, because we have to bargain that with those that are represented.
So in actuality, the bonuses were not for all of the employees, for their performance and et cetera, et cetera. It was if, in fact, that you were part of a union or not part of a union. Is that what you're telling me?
Not at all, Councilman Townsend. The decision was made by the mayor to provide a $750 bonus to all employees. At that point, we have the authority, as we've discussed previously tonight, under the charter, to do that immediately with those that are not represented by labor.
So, okay, well, you clarify me. If you're part of a union, you were being treated differently if you were not part of a union. Is that what you're telling me?
It's federal law that we must. We cannot just simply give it to those that are represented by a union. We have to bargain with those representatives.
Well, you're telling me there's a federal law that says any kind of bonuses, you got to bargain that bonus with the union.
That's what I'm telling you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Okay, I need a motion for American Federation of State, County, and Municipal.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote. That passes unanimously.
Good evening. Mike Lowry, 364 Maribel, Pensacola. First of all, happy holidays. First and foremost, I want to encourage you, and I think you will, ratify the agreement for the collective bargaining agreement, the first one ever that I know of, for the AFSCME Local 3253 and their great president, Kim. That's just congratulations. It's fantastic to see that come about. You know, representing transit workers, we don't have a contract, and but we're pleased to see that the city workers and the International Association of the Professional Firefighters, Local 707, Phillips Local, there is that there's going to be hopefully some ratification today and some success there between labor and management. We're happy to see that. And we have a unique perspective from the transit workers. We see city workers out on the street daily. We see firefighters, professional firefighters out on the street daily. We know how good they are. They are the best. I just want to mention one other thing, and actually two other things, but the one thing I want to mention to you is mentioned about the transit workers. We're moving forward, and we're hoping that the City Council will start to spend some time with the County Commission and start to really look at the transit issue, because we think it's a very important issue. A comment was just made a minute ago that I think this person doesn't have all the details, and if they got the details, they would understand a little bit more about that, because it's important to know how important the transit system can help the economic growth in this community. And the service is in the city and the county. And the transit union is working forward to, in 2012, to try to find funding in different ways. And so we would like the city to be involved with that. So starting out with that, to say, oh, you should contribute, well, you know, let's first start dialogue. And I think we can start there. And then we'll see where we go from there. But we are 100% behind Commissioner Valentino's idea of a gas tax, and then it coming off the backs of the homeowners in this community for them having to pay. We're behind that. And we're behind a regional transit system. But we think it's important that this council's involved with that.
Mr. Lowry, I know
Yes.
you've got a little time left, but we're at 6 o'clock.
Okay, can I say one last thing and I'm
just-
done? Because actually I have to leave. The last thing I'll say is this. Councilwoman Sherry Myers is the one of the biggest trans advocates. I've known her for years. She's huge for the ADA. In the opinion of these transit workers, some comments were made. I'm going to tell you something. She's a legislator of the year in this community in the perspective of workers. We think she is the best.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't think you would find many on the City Council that would disagree with you, sir.
Councilwoman Sherry Myers is one of the biggest trans advocates. I've known her for years. She's huge for the ADA. In the opinion of these transit workers, some comments were made. I'm going to tell you something. She's a legislator of the year in this community in the perspective of workers. We think she is the best.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have two things I'd like to cover really quickly, if I may, at this point.
Okay.
The first one is the discussion that has not been lost upon the office of the mayor in regards to whether or not the mayor should be present at these particular meetings. And this is something that, is frankly, to me, being an outsider coming in, I was kind of shocked by. And there were a couple reasons for that. Probably the first one is that, in looking at the history of this particular issue, it apparently was solved, at least for all appearances, it should have been solved last November when the then city attorney had made an opinion, Mr. Wells, who said that certainly the mayor has the right to be at these meetings, but it's certainly not required under his view of the charter. And probably the biggest reason for that is that unlike the old form of government, where the mayor not only was the chair of the meetings, but also had a vote. And because of that, and in looking at the charter language itself, his opinion is that although the mayor certainly should be here, if there is something important that he thinks he needs to address personally, much as when he delivers his yearly budgets, or if there are any other issues of that magnitude, then he will be here. But he is represented by the office of the mayor, and that, frankly, at this point is in my persona. But in looking at it, that opinion was also ratified by the current city attorney. And so the issue is whether or not the mayor should be here. The mayor in the office of the mayor is present, and part of what I do is help to convey what his issues are on a meeting by meeting basis. The other issue is a little more troubling, and frankly, part of everything that we've been discussing in the last several months since I've been here, the real contentious issues, have revolved around the switch in our form of government. I've had the pleasure of going through a similar switch in government before, and so I can certainly understand that it's a long process and there are pinch points that need to be addressed over time. But there really is a correct form for doing that, and there's a difference between a political question, which we can disagree on, and then trying to bump such discussions into a realm that they really aren't appropriate. And earlier this week, former City Councilwoman Diane Mack filed a complaint with the State's Attorney's Office alleging criminal conduct on the behalf of the mayor. In fact, she alleged that because the mayor had paid city employees, had authorized the payment of city employees $750, by the way, which is the only compensation increase they've had since 2007, that somehow that action was not just politically something that she didn't agree with, but that it was actually criminal. Well, I'm happy to report that today the state's attorney delivered his verdict on her accusations. And I'm going to quote here a little bit, if you don't mind, Mr. President, and that's simply because I think this is incredibly important. The State's Attorney's Office stated that the charter for the City of Pensacola provides that the mayor has the power to exercise the executive powers of the city and to supervise all departments, including but not limited to the power to appoint, discipline, and remove all officers and employees. And the State's Attorney goes on to say that much like Ms. Mack had alleged in her complaint, that this appears to be in conflict with a certain position, with a certain ordinance, and that specifically is Section 9, TAC 3, TAC 24. The state's attorney in his analysis determined that in language that should bring it into the debate, the state's attorney opined that the city, and I quote, "The city charter provides that if a conflict exists between the provisions of the charter and the code of ordinances, the charter provisions control." Now, this is actually in line with two other legal opinions that the mayor has relied upon in the past, both from an independent attorney, and that is Michael Matamore of the law firm of Allen, Norton, and Blue, and also is the opinion of the Pensacola city attorney. So now we have three different attorneys looking at this same issue. And I guess just as looking at this as frankly being the outsider looking in, and I've only been here approximately 5-6 months at this point. It's really unfortunate that the political disagreements and the political discussions that we will have, get forced into venues that they simply don't have a place, and to somehow suggest that someone who is trying in a good faith effort, being the mayor, trying to recognize the hardworking employees of this city, that somehow that action is criminal, that really is a little bit beyond the pale. And that is what the state's attorney has essentially said. This is not a criminal issue, and there are no issues that he has with it. And with that, Mr. Chair, I am done with the mayor's report.
Thank you, sir. Okay, it brings us council communications. Any communications? Ms. Myers and then Ms. Deweese.
Well, I would like to address a couple of things. First I'm going to address is Mr. Reynolds' comments. I disagree with his, I don't know if he's giving a legal opinion here. I mean, I haven't seen the memorandum from the Attorney General's office. So was that sent to council?
This actually was an opinion from the state's attorney, ma'am.
From the state attorney?
That's
okay,
correct.
Okay, not the Attorney General.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I think it would have been nice if you had sent that to City Council, because it's obviously an important issue. And I believe that the mayor has both the power and the conjunctive word and duty to attend City Council meetings. And I certainly anticipated that when I was a strong supporter, and still am, of the charter, and because I believe that we need a person in a leadership position who's answerable to the people, rather than a city manager who was not answerable to the people. That was one of the primary reasons I supported the charter. And I never anticipated that the mayor would not attend council meetings. So as far as the compensation to employees, they deserved a raise. Unfortunately, we, the council, whose function is legislative and budgetary, did not get the budget until 6 days before we went into our budget deliberations. There was not enough time to look at that budget. I believe we had the money to give the employees a raise. Unfortunately, the council did not have time to deliberate that issue. In January, will bring forward request that an agenda item be placed on our Committee of the Whole agenda to discuss an ordinance that will require the mayor to provide the budget to the council in a sufficient manner for us to make the types of deliberations we need to make. I have questions as to the legality of the bonus under both state law and Florida and our local ordinance. which provides that bonuses have to be approved by City Council, and that did not happen. And that's one of the reasons I think it's important that the mayor attend these meetings so that we can have this kind of dialogue. And so I think that I have never seen any case law or Attorney General's opinions regarding whether or not the mayor is required by law. You can frame it as a political issue all you want to. This is also a legal issue. And it kind of bothers me that we're sitting here with the city attorney, but our city administrator is basically telling us what the law is. And so that's all I want to say on that.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Myers. The city administrator wanted to respond to it. In case you heard the beeper there, I'm so bad about keeping time on the clock. I've asked the clerk to assist me. Our own rules call for 5 minutes twice on any topic. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just really quickly, in response to Councilwoman Myers' comments, the state's attorney did look at both the state statute and the city ordinance. And the second point I would make is that, as part of this change in government, and I know that there's still some heartburn in regards to the mayor being present or not present, I would just simply ask you to look at other bodies, whether it be, we had a change from a mayor-council form of government to a mayor and a legislative body strictly. And if you look at the other bodies in the United States that have that, the President of the United States does not attend sessions of Congress unless he's presenting his budget or he's doing something of great significance. And the governor, frankly, doesn't do the same with the state legislature. And so I would just ask everyone to understand that this has been looked at. You have opinions on it. The mayor is relying upon those opinions. And what the office of the mayor and the mayor personally would really like to have happen is that if we can get past these pinch points that we are dealing with on procedural issues and start focusing on moving the city forward, that's where we'd like to put our attention. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson and Dr. Wu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. Yeah, I just want to comment on what Mr. Reynolds said earlier. We have an opinion from the State Attorney's Office that's been rendered saying that the bonuses were legal, but yet we continually bring them up and talk about them. We talk about them again tonight, and I'm just beginning to wonder if this is the best use of our time to continue beating this horse about these bonuses we're granted to some very deserving employees here at the City of Pensacola. We now have a state attorney's office opinion that has been rendered supporting that decision by the mayor and his staff to grant those bonuses. So I would like to reach out to all and let's let that issue go and let's move on. I agree. I find ourselves down here mired in issues that really are not bringing this city forward. And it's very, very frustrating for me. I recently just got back from a two-day trip and just reflected back on how often we sit down here and we talk about things that, are just frustrate me to no end. And the bonuses, there's been a state attorney's decision rendered that they were legal. Okay, let's move on from that and let's start trying to figure out ways to grow this city, to bring jobs to this city, and to make this a greater city for us all to live in. It's counterproductive to sit down here and get mired in this stuff. It's just very, very frustrating for me. The second thing I'd like to talk about too is the other issue, and that's about if the mayor should be here or not. Well, the mayor's represented here. He has staff. I see many staff members in this audience, and he's here. And he hears everything that's going on here. So many times I know the mayor is at different events and different things representing our city, but if there's an issue with the mayor not being here, I would suggest that if someone has a problem with that I suggest that you go down and file a lawsuit. And let's have a judge render an opinion on whether the mayor has to be here or not. But for every council meeting, for me to come down here and hear this talk about the mayor not being here, Is this really the best use of our time? It's just very frustrating. I'm ready for someone to file a lawsuit, take this to court, and let's get a judge to render an opinion on this. I mean, for us to sit down here, the mayor's not here again tonight. It's just really, really frustrating. I hear it out in the community. I hear people talk about it in the community, and it's just gotten to a level that is really, really, really counterproductive. And I would ask the persons that have problems with this to file a lawsuit. Let's get this before a judge, and let's resolve this issue. Let's get it over and move on, and let's try to grow this city. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy Hanukkah to all.
Okay, there was some switching seating arrangement here, and the labels didn't get changed at my desk. That's Dr. Wu is actually Dr. Pratt.
I was feeling a little confused. I thank you, Mr. President. I've heard what Mr. Johnson said, and I do think that this has been frustrating to talk about the bonuses, and it is counterproductive for us to have to come up or discuss this over and over. Though the state attorney opinion I just found out has been rendered, and so when I brought it up on Monday, I had no idea of any opinions. My reason for bringing this up is not to question the employees and how much they deserve, because they are hardworking. Unfortunately, on Monday, since I didn't finish my thoughts, a number of people heard about it, and I got calls because they were worried, oh no, is there something wrong? And so I really didn't want to add to their stress. And I agree that the mayor is trying with a good faith effort to do the best he can, and I hope that he understands that we too are trying with a good faith effort to do as best as we can with the information we have. But I think the issue isn't a political issue, a power issue. It's more about transparency. You know, our city code is what we believe our government's run by. We have a charter and a code, and sometimes they might conflict. But I think that we as a council deserve the respect of the mayor and to be told, you know, you might come across the fact that there was this ordinance, because I remember voting about it, and so it rang a bell. And so we deserve to be told if there are opinions out there. You know, our government shouldn't operate on unpublished opinions. So ultimately, I think that an open discussion about the bonuses would have been valuable. I would have liked to have heard from the employees, the citizens, and each of you about what is the best course of action, because maybe there were other options that could have been beneficial. But unfortunately, we weren't included in that discussion. And I believe that as the policy-making body and the body that ultimately deals with appropriations, we at least have valuable input. And so I would have appreciated at least being informed as this went forward, because ultimately we need to be sure of what's going on in our government. And so I would like to see the opinions that have been rendered, because I know, having heard from Ms. Mack, I knew that she was looking at the state issues. I didn't know that she was asking about the local ordinances. But I welcome the opinions. I will never claim I'm an attorney, but when I read it as an informed person, I see it in one way, and I would like more information. And so that I will look at that in the future.
And I'm not addressing any particular person here on council or remarks or anything that's been done tonight, except for the one idea that Mr. Johnson had regarding the lawsuit. One of my old political foes that I used to serve on council with, and sometimes when I look back, I wished I had him back. But he's just said, you know, sometimes lawsuits are a good thing. You know, they settle political issues. You let a court of law figure it out. If the political people can't get it figured out, let the politics figure it out. So I think that's probably a good idea, not just on the issue that Ms. Myers brought up, but there's 3-4 issues that keep showing up in the press and in the political blogs over the growing pains. And it just seems like to me that probably the best thing to do would be to take that Ms. Myers issue and others to court and get those resolved. It wouldn't hurt my feelings a bit. In fact, I'd like to see what the results are. The problem I have with it is, though, is that if you do that and the courts rule on it, it takes that political issue away from a particular group that like to have a political issue before them. And so then we just got to move on to another issue. And I don't want to legislate the city by always having things in court just because somebody's not happy with something. But these are, I think, all legitimate issues. I happen to be a supporter of the mayor, what he's doing, and others disagree, and I think that's fine. But it may be that we have to get the courts to figure that out. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Johnson for suggesting that. Ms. Myers.
Yes, I would like to respond. It appears from comments made tonight that I'm the one that brought up the pensions and the mayor not being here. I didn't bring those issues up. Those two issues were brought up by Mr. Reynolds, not me. And I had no intention of bringing up the bonuses or the mayor not being here. Mr. Reynolds brought those two issues up, not me. So I just want to make that clear, because you just said that these were my issues. Those are not my issues tonight. Those were apparently Mr. Reynolds' issues, and I just responded to them.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Moves us to Ms. DeWeese.
Thank you, Mr. President. And if you'll just indulge me for a moment, I hesitated to make this correction or this urging at the seat of President, but I feel compelled to remind Council that when there is ongoing issues that should be discussed during unfinished business, or if you have new business to bring forward, that Council communication is not typically designed for that it is communication with the citizens about business openings in the community or upcoming events, and that we have a great deal of people in the audience that are here for issues that are on the business portion of the agenda. So I would just like to ask Council to wait until the end of our meeting for unfinished business. If there's anything left from Monday that we need to discuss, or if there's something that they still want to continue to debate. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm still under instruction, so I probably should consult with you before each meeting.
I wasn't correcting. I was just pleading, actually.
But thank you, Dr. Pratt.
Thank you. Mr. now.
Mr. Spencer.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate our city administrator's delivery of the opinion that was rendered today by the state attorney's office, and I'm certain that all of us as council members can receive a copy of that in written form. And I too probably in concurrence with fellow council member Johnson, hope that the habitual critics of our city's mayor and the new charter, including certain members of council, will learn to recognize and grasp the very tangible progress that is the signature of our strong mayor and this administration as it comes to the end of its first full year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gerald.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I earlier was not going to comment, but having heard the other comments, it occurs to me, and I think Mr. Reynolds mentioned it earlier, the transition from the old form of government to the new form of government, I view it as a kind of a marriage. Since it's new to both sides, the mayor and council, it is imperative that we work together to get through the rough spots, and we cannot do it in absence. I can't imagine what would happen to me if I didn't show up at home at, say, 2 or 3, being in a marriage. But I think the newness of the charter would indicate a closer relationship so that we will have the opportunity to work out the differences face to face. And as long as we continue to do it the same way, we're going to continue down the same path. And that's all there is to it. Thank you.